It's 2 a.m., long way to go. It's dark all over, the moon's starting to glow. Gotta stay awake, no matter what I do. Wanna see my girl when the night is through. I'm driving on, and I gotta be strong, and it won't be long till I'm driving on.
Hey guys, another episode of Midnight Madness with Hardman. We've got Michael Tiffany, the owner of Midnight Madness, on the show today, which is awesome. And then, I'm going to let the artists introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about themselves. This band is really cool. I've heard them quite a few times in my music career, and I'm actually shocked that I have the privilege of speaking to them. So, introduce yourself, introduce your band, and tell us a little bit about what you do.
I bang the drum, the drum came from Africa, you know that. Some will claim it came from somewhere else, but it came from Africa. And without the drum, we would be nothing. It's how people used to communicate. We still do to some degree, because unless the drummer in the band is not great, the band might as well just go home. Having said that, I've always played in great bands. Even from the very first band I was in when I was 16 years old, everybody could play. And my name's Roger Earl. I play in a band called Foghat. They're a blues rock and roll band. We have large fun, and I am one of the most fortunate human beings in this world because I get to earn a living doing what I love. I love what I live, and I live what I love. I'm one of those fortunate ones. That's basically it. We got a new record out called Sonic Mojo. It's like a blues rock and roll record. Hey, the blues. That's where music came from. Blues. Then we got jazz, and then we got bebop. Then we got rock and roll. Then we got country. Then we got gospel music, folk music. That's one of the beauties of the States, America. This is where all those cultures and musical sounds came together and made this thing. Music, I think without music, life would be a mistake. There, I've said my bit. You have the floor now.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, talking about the blues, who cannot love the blues? I mean, it's the baseline of everything we do in music. I think if it wasn't for the guys back before Elvis days hitting up the blues, right, and just those, epic guitar pieces and the drums and everything, where would we be today? Would we have good music? Probably not.
No, and I've been real fortunate in my career, especially since I first came to the States in 1969, and I got to meet and play with a bunch of my heroes. I played with Muddy Waters. I played in his band. We did a couple of shows together. Played with John Lee Hooker. I played with just so many. It's I've met all my heroes, and it's that was one of the joys. All my musical heroes that I met didn't let me down. In fact, it was an inspiration to sort of talk to them and play with them and discuss music. So I've been real fortunate in that regard. I remember one time, 1977, my parents were coming over from England to the States. I was living here, and Foghat was doing a show at the Palladium in New York City, and it was called Foghat's Tribute to the Blues. And we had all these blues artists playing on the show, and we were backing them up or playing in the band with them. And we were backstage at one point. My mum and dad came in, and I introduced them to Muddy Waters. Said, "Mum and Dad, Mr. Muddy Waters. Muddy, this is my mum and dad." And they shook hands. Now, they knew who he was, because in 1960, I had this record called Muddy Waters at the Newport Jazz Blues Festival. And there's a youngest son playing with one of his musical heroes. Muddy was a beautiful man. I met him a number of times after that. And without Muddy and countless other musicians, there would be no rock and roll.
Mm. So going back in history, what influenced the formation of Foghat? And talking of that, like when you think back to 1970s when you guys started out, did you ever think that when you were the first time walked into that band room to practice, did you ever think, you are going to go, all the way to the top and you're going to have your music playing on games, on radio stations, on videos, worldwide? I mean, I've heard of you guys and I'm in South Africa. So,
No, the reason I play is because I love music. I love playing music, and pretty much certainly Lonesome Dave, our original lead singer, and Rob Price, our original lead guitar player and slide guitar player, it was always about the music. It was that's the joy you get about playing. The stardom and financial and all the other stuff, and that's great. But no, you want to play music because you want to play. If you're successful at it, I mean, I know countless musicians that do it evenings for free during the week after they've worked, or weekends. But that's why you play music. I don't, if you want to earn money, go to a bank. That's where they keep it.
that's basically what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
We are paying to make music in this country. So like if anyone ever thinks we're doing it for the money, if we're doing it for the money, that's not a very good financial decision. Tell me, talking about the States, and you were talking now about how all the bands, all the different flavors of music sort of like fused in the US, and you've got this interesting like mix up of music and stuff. Um, what made you guys relocate to the States after signing a deal with Bearsville Records?
It was, I mean, I grew up in Southwest London in Hounslow, and initially I got into music for my older brother. He would buy records from Chess Records and from the Sun label, early Jerry Lee Lewis, Johnny Cash records, and Elvis Presley, of course. Elvis's early records were absolutely fantastic, great band, and that's where it started. It's I don't know quite how to answer that one.
Well, was the move a good decision for you guys?
For me, the States was the home of music. This is where it all came from. The music that influenced me, and the band I was first in was in Savoy Brown Blues Band in the '60s. But I first came to the States in '69. It felt like coming home. Again, early days, I got to meet a number of blues artists and jam with them on stage. Bobby Blue Bland, and yeah, I met Buddy Guy on our first tour, or played with Buddy Guy, I should say, and it was like coming home. It was like magic. I don't know if you've ever seen Buddy Guy play, but I first saw him in 1969 up in Boston. It was about Savoy Brown's third or fourth date, and it was like magic. I mean, he just commanded the stage, and he sang and he played with such ferocity and fire. It was magic. And I'm a fan. I don't think you play in a band or play music unless you're a fan. I mean, that's what gets you through the day. And like, you're hungry and stuff, and you play in a club for like 3 or 4 hours, and then you don't get paid again. I don't know. It's the joy of making and playing music.
I absolutely love what you said now, because I've said on my pages, I say I'm just a shitty musician that enjoys music. And
Nice guitars, by the way.
thanks. So this is my only Gibson, but yeah, I love it.
Yeah,
This is an Epiphone, and that's a 7 string. So yeah,
right.
quite cool. So how did the band sound evolve from the early days onto Sonic Mojo? So coming from the first records all the way to the latest record, and tell me
Uh,
about like when Stoney Stevens left the band and uh, Rod Price left. How did your sound develop with all these various occasions happening? You know.
well, initially, of course, the band came from Savoy Brown Blues Band, myself, Lonesome Dave, and Tony Stevens. Lonesome Dave and I left the band. Tony Stevens was fired from Savoy Brown, but we stayed together. We formed Foghat in 1971. Our first album, actually, our manager was a friend of mine, Tony Otida, and I'd worked with him on one of the Savoy Brown tours. He was like he was working with a promoter. We became friends. Um, uh, he I stayed at his parents' house out here on Long Island. Went fishing. I'm a fishing enthusiast. I
Oh,
fish.
nice.
Or I am.
Then you should definitely visit South Africa. We fish here. This is our
Yeah,
hobby.
I know. I've read about it. I've read about it. So then we formed Foghat. We start. What happened was Albert Grossman was coming to Great UK with the band to promote them, and Todd Rundgren was with them, and our manager at the time, Tony Otida, had met Albert Grossman and talked to him a number of times. I think he'd offered Albert Grossman had offered him a work or a job or something. Anyway, I rented a room in a pub rather, in northwest London, Islington, one afternoon during the week. Albert came down. We were set up on this stage. Nobody else was there, just Albert and our one road crew. And we played about 6 songs for him with our Hi-Watts and Marshalls. When we started playing, he visibly went, "Whoa." Anyway, after we played about 6 songs, he said, "Well, hey, can we get some tea and biscuits somewhere?" And I said, "Yeah, across the road there was a hotel." We went in there, and Albert ordered tea and biscuits. The tea and biscuits came. I poured some of the tea, and I remember this to this day. It's like Albert said, "Well, hey, let's do it," and he'd do this thing, this sort of thing. And Albert was the only person. Prior to this, we'd actually made a 6-song demo that our manager had shopped around to various record companies. They all turned us down. But Albert Grossman heard and saw something other than that. I mean, he was the manager of Bob Dylan, the band, People and Mary, Bob Dylan. It was Janis Joplin. So he obviously saw something and heard something that the others didn't. Yeah, I'm eternally grateful to Albert. He was an incredible human being. Anyway, about a month after we'd met him, he sent me a check for $10,000. I booked some studio time at Rockfield in Wales. Dave Edmunds was working the night shift, and we got the day shift. And of course, it would cross over a little bit. I was a big fan of Dave Edmunds anyway. And we listened to some of Dave Edmunds' music, and it was really sounded great. Our songs were okay, but they didn't sound right. So our manager asked Dave Edmunds if he would produce our record, and Dave said, "Yeah, but I have to finish mixing my own stuff." Then Dave Edmunds took over producing the record, and I know without Dave Edmunds' input, the record wouldn't have sounded anywhere near as good. I don't think it would have been anywhere near as successful as it was. our first single off of that was I Just Want to Make Love to You. It was a Willie Dixon song, first recorded by Muddy Waters. So that was a big hit over here in the States. The really cool thing about the first record was in the States, it would be picked up by a radio station, FM radio back then, was 71, 72, 72. And then about a month later, it was picked up by somebody else. It was actually on the air for like almost a year, which I think really helped sort of garner a lot of interest in the band, because it was, States is a huge country. And then we did our next album, and I think we just got better and better. We worked tirelessly. We worked all the time. We didn't. The only days we had off were probably traveling to somewhere else. And also after the first album, we didn't really spend a lot of time in the studio. We'd spend a week somewhere, do some songs, and working with different producers. Then and it was kind of a bit sort of busy, but it was what we had to do. We were, and then by the time our third album, I think it was Energized, the record company, Warner Brothers, which was the parent company, put a lot of effort into promoting the band. That was the first album that went gold, and then we carried on. And then the Fall for the City album, which is started in 74, Tony Stevens left the band again. I think it was, we worked tirelessly, and the rest of the band all wanted to live in the States. Myself, Lonesome Dave, and Rob Price, and Tony didn't. So he left the band. He was bought out of the band. We gave him a lot of money. He kept his writing royalties. So that was all right. And then we carried on. Nick Jameson became our producer that we'd worked with before. He was also the bass player in the band. Brilliant musician. And we did the Fall for the City album, which was first album that went like double platinum, I think, whatever that means.
How does that feel when that happens, when an album goes double platinum? Like, how does that feel? Like, what do you as a drummer, and you're like, you know what? I was part of the writing of this. How does that make you feel?
It was, it was great because, you had the trappings of, I was the last one in the band to buy a house. I was probably busy having too much fun, but it was great. We were playing arenas and festivals. It was great. It was great. I don't know about what, the fact that, we sold 2 million records or whatever. That stuff doesn't really sort of, it's always cool when you listen to the radio comes on, they play one of your songs. That's a given. Anytime the radio plays one of your songs, you can't help but get a kick out of it. Really, it's like, woo, we're on the radio,
Yeah.
But the trappings of rock and roll lifestyle, I loved it. I loved playing. I never got tired of being on the road. Rod actually eventually, and the same with Tony Stevens, I think, wanted to take time off. Rod actually, I think, suffered a little bit. Rod Price, I'm talking about. But myself and Lonesome Dave loved to play. It was, I don't know. The only other thing I really want to do is maybe go fishing. Playing music is, I get a kick out of it. I love doing it. I've always played with great musicians, great players, and of a similar attitude. They love the blues, rock and roll, jazz. That sort of American music, and we all have, our influences were the same. So I think that helps, with a band. There was never really any like aggro in the band. No, I mean, I always got on really well with Dave and Rod. It's just that some of us love being on the road and playing and working, and it was like, it's like careful what you wish for.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm playing today. What am I? I'm going to be 78 this year in May. It's like it keeps me young. Playing drums, I have to stay
Fit.
reasonably. I was just upstairs, working on some stuff with my pad and pedals, and this is how bad it is. I've got I'm in the living room now. There's the record player here and the TV's over there. But I have a pad and sticks. I have an electronic drum set upstairs. I have my regular drum kit in a shed outside that's soundproofed. Don't want to upset the neighbors. Actually, the neighbors are great. And I shouldn't really tell you this, but there's a pedal and a pad in the bedroom. I mean, what's that about? You know what it is? I'm married to the Holy Trinity. My wife is my manager and my girlfriend. So she tolerates, not only tolerates me, she encourages me with my passion, let's put it that way. So, in fact, we've been friends. She was our office manager back in 1975, 76. And we were friends. We went to each other's weddings. And about 27 years ago, I thought I'd ruined a perfectly good friendship, but it was probably one of the best moves I ever made.
They do keep us stable if we want to know it or not. I'm not married, but I'm engaged, and if it wasn't for my fiance, I don't know how I would survive. Because one thing about me is I don't remember shit, so she's my diary. uh, and the other thing is, I'm the type of guy that would go on tour and then be like, "Fuck, where's my guitar?" You know. So she's the one going, "Hey, you forgot this." So yeah, they make us better, don't they?
It's when you have a passion, like musicians, I think, especially if you're going to be successful, are inherently selfish. I mean, and I say that in the best way, like they're selfish about playing music. It comes before everything. It's like, I've got to go to a wedding. Yes, it's your wedding. Oh, no, it's like, all you think about is that. And of course, you go fishing as well. I'm sorry about that. And I think most musicians that become successful are like that. Their music comes pretty much before everything else. You don't become successful unless you have that kind of passion. I mean, hundreds and probably thousands of musicians out there have the same passion, but not everybody sort of makes it to whatever this kind of level or this kind of degree, or can do it to earn a living. It's like, you want to be a musician, you should probably have a second job as well.
That is the reality of today's living. That is it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Sonic Mojo and modern times. So I think you are one of the few musicians.
There you go.
Awesome.
Okay.
So you're one of the few musicians that have the privilege to say that they have been making music for 5 decades. So you've gone through 5 decades of changes in venues changing, shows changing. Streaming services became a thing recently. YouTube became a thing about 20 years ago, odd years ago. So
Right.
tell me about everything. Tell me about gigging in the 70s versus gigging in, let's say, the 90s versus gigging now in 2020. For you, what have changed? Like the marketing around it and all that.
Well, obviously, the band was very successful, especially like myself and Lonesome Dave. But Lonesome Dave, when he passed, that I really had to sort of like think about what I was going to do. I took about 3 or 4 months off. People sent me a bunch of tapes and stuff. The one thing and then Charlie Hune joined the band, great singer, and he sang with Humble Pie, and that worked really well for a while. But I also knew that if we were going to, continue as a band and like function as a band, we had to record. You can't just rely on what you've done in the past 5 decades or whatever it is. You could do, but musicians, I think, when you have a passion for music, you want to still be creative to some degree. So there's nothing more than 3 chords. Sorry about that. Anything other than 3 chords has to be viewed with a certain amount of suspicion. Okay. But it's I knew that if we were going to survive or carry on and still enjoy it, we had to make records and we had to be productive. So initially when we got after Dave died, a friend of ours let us use his studio down in Florida. Or actually, it wasn't a studio; it was just a huge warehouse. We borrowed amps and we borrowed a board and we borrowed microphones, and we had a number of people help us out with that. Literally, friends just said, we got mic. So we did that, and then we made our first record after Lonesome Dave passed, and and with that, I knew that we had to sort of find somewhere to record. So we found a house down in Florida on 10 acres in the middle of nowhere, and we built a studio. Now, back in the day, we had a studio up here in New York one time, back in the late, early 80s, late 70s, early 80s. and it was great. It's called Boogie Hotel. And I knew we had to sort of have our own place. It was different like throughout the 60s and 70s and 80s even. A Neve board would cost you maybe a couple of $1 million, a second-hand one. Now, we didn't have that kind of money, and that changed with a lot of the new stuff, the new boards, computers, everything sort of became a lot more compressed and smaller. But you still had to have somebody who had really good ears as far as production and the use of like microphones and recording techniques. Well, we had someone in the band that would be Brian Bassett. He's our lead and slide guitar player. He's also an engineer and producer, and has been for 30 or maybe 35 years. So I put him to work. It's somebody in the band that can do 2 things. They're doing it. And I do my bit as well. But we're real fortunate that Brian is in the band, because that enables us to do it. And all the band is involved in like putting stuff together, the creative end of it and making music. So we have our own studio in DeLand, Florida. It's set on 10 acres. It's just a house, and we were originally going to build a studio, but we set up in the living room to start playing, and it worked. So we just left the studio bit, which was in fact a huge garage. Probably would take about 8 cars. That's what it was on the property, but we decided just to sit in the living room and do it, and it works. It's very casual. We just start. We can jam. We can sit down and write. There's like 4 bedrooms. You want to take a break, or we want to sit outside and play. We've got a couple of neighbors like that keep an eye on the place for us, and they don't object to the noise, which is really cool.
Right,
There's So it works. It works for us.
So we also have a sound engineer in the band, which is actually our drummer. And I must admit that helps a lot because obviously, first of all, you don't have to pay an engineer, which saves you a bunch of money, especially in modern times. And second of all, he's got the ears to say like, listen, your guitar tone is nice, but do you think it fits the vibe?
Well, guitar tones. I mean, it's like you know, it's like with drums. How do you approach a song? You listen to the lead vocal, the lead guitar, the lead vocal, the melody of the song, the rhythm of the song. That's one of the beauties of like being creative. You put your ears on. I'm deaf anyway, but it's a creative. I mean, the tone of a guitar. I mean, they have stuff out there now. I mean, little amplifiers and like some people don't even use amps. They plug straight into the board. But we're a bit more what's the term? Organic. We use amplifiers. We got Marshalls. We got other various things, smaller ones in the room. But it's guitar tones. That the guitar players decide how they want it to be. The lead singer will sing the song how he feels it. But we work on that stuff, especially on this album. Sonic Mojo. It was a real joy making this song, this album. It was initially when we started it about 7 years ago, actually. But then COVID came along, and that put a damper on it. COVID lasted about 2 years, and then we started working together and playing together again. And about 2 years ago, our lead singer decided to retire, Charlie Hume. Fortunately, Scott Holt, who I'd known since we'd known each other and jammed together and written songs together since 2014, actually. He used to be with Buddy Guy. He was the second guitar player with Buddy Guy for 10 years. So, he can play. Yeah. And, he has great creds, and he's a fantastic human being. He's a fantastic guitar player and singer. And when Charlie decided he was going to retire, we got a couple of days' notice, and we were going on the road in 2 weeks. And Scott and I were working on some music, another project, and I said, "You want to join the band?" He went, "Ah." So we had to learn a Foghat set within 2 weeks, but it worked. Retiring. That's going to be hard for somebody to say, I'm going to retire now. Charlie was 72. A great singer, great guitar player, but the only way I would ever do that is if I just couldn't play anymore, or couldn't play to how I wanted to play. And, I've made some accommodations. I mean, I've had so many, my hands, I've had worked on my shoulders, my knees, my feet. But we're living in a time now where there's all sorts of stuff, like professional athletes. I mean, I have like doctors and surgeons that treat me like a professional athlete. I said, well, I need my hand to work. I need this to do this, and I need, and there's all sorts of natural stuff that you can use now that keeps me functioning. I'm not looking forward to the day when I have to retire. No, I don't think I will. I'm going to roll till I'm old and rock till I drop. That's what I'm going to do.
I must admit, I love your attitude, and I love your love for music. It's actually so inspiring, and that's some of the things you said. I could relate to that, and how you said like sometimes we're sort of a little bit selfish, and we don't even realize it. We just want to make music. This is what we want, and you sort of forget about the rest of the world. And I think I would probably also go till, if my fingers are not working anymore, then I'll be like, okay, cool, I can't do this anymore. But
you can. The only trouble with it is it's kind of uh, uh, over here in the States, I mean, they have some incredible doctors and surgeons and stuff. And my manager looks out for me, and we research if something's going wrong, or I talk to other musicians, other drummers, about some ideas and what to do. But also, I work on my technique and how I play. I've changed from how I played, let's say, in 1976. I mean, I would have cymbals up in the air. They're down now because you play like that, as opposed to.
Yeah.
I work on playing and your technique, and it's okay. It's okay. I mean, I ran all my life up until about 25 years ago because my knees I couldn't run anymore. My knees hurt. But and I missed running because it was, I don't know if you ever were an athlete or anything, or if you ran, I'd run for like 10 miles and feel like fantastic. I mean, tired, and I couldn't do another sort of 100 yards, but it would be endorphins.
Yeah, no, they say it's like a drug. Once you start, it kicks in, and when the endorphin starts running, you just like, yes, this is great. I must admit, I'm very, very lazy, and that's a problem.
Am I? I don't have a problem like sitting down, just hanging out, listening to music, having a drink, reading a book. I'm an avid reader. And then all of a sudden it's like, I have to do something now. But no, I don't have a problem relaxing.
Yeah, so we are about we're about to do a UK tour. So this is my first time out of the country. And I'm quite a weighted guy. I weigh about 103 kilos. So I'm a heavy guy. And we were practicing our set and we ran it through twice. And after that, I was laying on the floor here and my drummer walked up to me and he was standing like this above me. And he said, "How the hell are you going to tour?" And then I was like, no, I'm going to start doing push-ups. I need to be fit, because once you start playing shows, especially playing every day for like a certain amount of time, the energy is unreal. Like when you walk, I don't know about yourself, but you're a drummer, so you must feel it even worse. But when you get off that stage, there's nothing left. There's nothing left.
But the other thing is, I still get chills when I play. Just some, we played like everything from like 1,000-seat rooms to 3, 4, 5,000 seat and festivals and stuff. Like we play everywhere. But there's just some rooms that you play, and you hear everything. You hear everybody great. It's like I get chills. We're playing a song that we played, 1,000 times, but all of a sudden it's like you're hearing everything.
Yeah.
Right. And I just get chills, and it's those endorphins coming in again. But yes, trying to stay healthy is I work at it, and like Scott Holt, our lead singer and lead guitar player, he's been with the band. This is his 3rd year he's been in the band. He sleeps with his guitar. He gets up in the morning, like we're in the studio. He's got his guitar around his back, and he's making coffee. And then he sits down and he's playing his guitar. Maybe he'll put CNN on and or do something. And he's playing his guitar. And then, I'm up, and then, I make some noise on the drums. He gets up, plugs in the amp, and all of a sudden we start playing. It's like, I'm very fortunate, actually. I know, but the thing is, I know how fortunate I am. It's fun.
It sounds like the dream life. So last little question.
Yeah.
Talking also about modern times, talking also about Sonic Mojo. Spotify. What is your opinion? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Yeah, tell me about it.
What is Spotify? I have a manager. I have a manager. I don't worry about that crap.
Right.
What is it? And streaming. No, I know it's streaming. No, my manager's working. You know, you know who did this? My manager. Do you
Your
know who
manager.
put my manager? Our manager. Sorry. Do you know who did this? Our manager. Oh, we have a real manager. I mean, she's works tirelessly, and we have a fantastic crew. Our crew is great, and our manager put together an incredible amount of people, to work on this record. Hold on a second. One thing I didn't talk to you about. Kim Simmons, who was the leader of Savoy Brown. He gave me my first real job when I was 19, and when I joined Savoy Brown Blues Band back in the 60s. And after we left Savoy Brown, we reconnected around 1976, and we were always friends. I don't think there was ever a cross word between us. We always had a mutual respect for each other. Anyway, our previous studio album called Under the Influence, I invited Kim Simmons to come down and play on it, which he did. He played on like 4 songs. Also, Scott Holt, our current lead singer and lead guitar player, co-wrote some songs on there and sang and played on it. We had a bunch of guests on it. And after we'd finished doing that record, Kim, we were just talking. We were down in Nashville, I think. And he said, I'd really like to write some songs for Foghat. I said, that would be great, Kim, as long as you're playing on them.
Oh, that's awesome.
Unfortunately, Kim passed away a year ago, December. But during the COVID nightmare, he sent me 4 songs with him singing and playing guitar. We recorded, and 3 of them are on this album, Sonic Mojo. And I think, but obviously the band, put their thing on it. But if I can make some suggestions, when you get the MP3s, play the 3 songs that Kim co-wrote with the band. She's a little bit of everything, especially Driving On, which is, I think, it's actually getting played on Billboard. It was #1 on the blues charts on Billboard for a couple of weeks. It's been on there for like 17 or 18 weeks, I think. And Time Slips Away. I don't know. You listen to the record, you decide what you like. But I'm really, really proud of this record. It really does pretty much cover all the sort of musical genres that this band likes and loves, I should say, really, and loves to play. So I think you'll enjoy it.
Awesome. No, I love your music, and I love the blues, and I like everything. Like I said, I haven't heard about you guys now. So just a little bit of insight. I discovered you guys on a game about
Really?
15 odd years ago. So I was playing a game, and I can't remember the game's name. I can't, but it was like
It was a car game, right?
yeah, it was a car game. I can't remember, but I remember I was driving the car, and it was Slow Ride, which is like one of the coolest songs ever. And like I was always jamming out to it, And then when me and Michael started chatting about Foghat, and I was like, why does this sound so familiar? And then when I checked it, I was like, no, like this is so insane. So I've been quite starstruck, to be honest with you. I've been so nervous about this interview the whole week. but
Right.
but
the other cool thing about the band is we have all these different generations. We have teenagers now coming to our shows, like 30, 40-year-olds who got turned on by their older brothers or sisters. And, of course, we've been in lots of commercials and films, of course. We were in, it was the last Top Gun. I think they played Slow Ride, and, which really helps. We were in, what was that? Guitar Hero. This was
yeah, I remember. Yeah.
And Slow Ride was played on that. And I remember at the time, there was another band that had that song on there. That wasn't actually us playing. It was somebody else. So they did a pretty good job of it, though. But it's a song, and it's it's Foghat. And this other band wanted to sue them because they played their song, but it was other musicians. And I said, what is wrong with you? You can't pay for this kind of publicity. All of a sudden, millions and millions of kids are going to hear your music. And it was a good facsimile of what you do. You can't pay for that kind of publicity. So
And what
I don't know.
What makes Guitar Hero great, right, is like, let's take Slow Ride, and you're playing it, and you're making mistakes and things, right? So you're listening to that song over and over and over and until you play it like on Guitar Hero. So later on it gets that. So like you said, there is no better publicity out there.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Guitar Hero is dead. They're not doing music.
It's like in car companies, I think Honda and a few others had some of our songs. It's obviously in film scores they've used it. I mean that's just fantastic. The band could always play, and like as far as our live shows, the band always went down really well. Ever right from the beginning. That's we're animated and. We can always play, and we always had a great sound engineer, which is, if you don't have a front of house engineer who knows what he's doing, you might as well go home. But it works, and it's working great now. I mean, up until the first 4 or 5 shows we did this year were all sold out, with like theaters. We're taking some time off now. I had some stuff taken off of my back. I'm a sun bunny, when you go fishing and stuff, burnt the back. Because I don't have that nice brown skin that can tolerate high sun.
I feel you.
But it's I'm good now. I've got stitched up and I'm ready to go. I think the next 2 dates we're playing in Ohio, and then we go to Illinois, then we got 4 or 5 days off, and we're off somewhere else. We'll probably do about 60 or 70 shows this year, something like that.
Not that I think if people don't know this, but tell us last thing, anything else you need to say. Tell us, where can people buy your merch? Where can they read about you? And what can they expect from Sonic Mojo?
Foghat.com has all the information about us and where we can play. Our manager is working feverishly to try and get us to Europe. That's not all that far from South Africa, so it could happen. Like I said, my older brother and Ray Dorset, when they were in Mungo Jerry, played South Africa, and they said they had a great time there. I would love to come to your beautiful country. And we're trying to get back to Europe as well this year, so we'll see. But I've really enjoyed talking to you, and play our music. I appreciate that. And maybe we'll get to meet one of these days, and good luck with your band as well.
Thank you so much. So I've been Hardman. Until next time, see you soon.